Beverage Stacker coming at you. I am hitting the road and I am live early. I know, it's an 11 o'clock podcast. Of course, my appointment is at 11 o'clock. So here I am hitting you up on my drive down. Now, I don't know what my best scenario is here because I think I'm stuck holding you. But today it's about what we're talking about, not how pretty I look. So I may end up setting this thing down. And in fact, I might see if I can set it down in my display. Good morning, Transient Stacker in the house. Nice. Yes, I'm hitting the road. I got to meet a client. We are measuring up a project and we need plans. There we go. That works. Let's do that. Let's see how long it lasts without falling down. Who we're talking about, but somebody I know, they had an incident occurred recently. They had their little dog at the dog park. They're in the little dog section next to the big dog section, and 3 big dogs went under the fence and attacked the little dog. Chewed it up pretty good. It's got a bunch of holes and punctures. It looks like the little dog's gonna be okay, but very traumatic. Dog took a beating. The owner is shook. And where do you go from here, right? Now, it's my understanding the 3 big dogs were all the property of one, and they did take care of the vet bill. I think that's the least that could be done. The question becomes, is that enough? What happens when dogs attack dogs or people? Now, for me personally, I get that there's a pack mentality. So when you get a group of dogs together, maybe things that don't normally happen or wouldn't normally happen could happen. I don't know dog psychology, but clearly this isn't a situation that's never occurred before. Now let me tell you my story. I was 9 years old. I was walking my dog. I had been at a friend's house all day, and I was trying to get home before dark, and I had a little dog, terrier, cocker spaniel, poodle mix, not very big, probably like 8 or 9 pounds, maybe 10 pounds, and I had the leash around my wrist, and there were these 2 big bull mastiffs, and these were big dogs. They were show dogs, and they were like 140 pound dogs, 130, 140 pound dogs, huge. And these dogs stood about 4 feet tall, and they were behind a fence that was about 3 feet tall. And every time I would go by this fence, because there was a bike shop everybody wanted to go to, every time I would go to this bike shop, these dogs, if they saw you, they'd go nuts, right? They'd be barking like crazy. And everybody was scared to death of these dogs. They were big. These are Old English bull mastiffs, purebred. They were show dogs. So it was a whole thing, right? We hated going by that house. And it was scary. I was 9, right? So they weren't as tall as me, but they were way heavier than I was. And so in any case, I'm going home. It's almost dark. This is much faster than going around, which I normally would do just to avoid that house with those dogs. And sure enough, I'm walking, I'm on the opposite side of the street. I'm walking my dog. We're trying to get by quick. And boom, the big male jumps the fence. The female jumps right behind it. and they run over. I pick my little dog up in my hands, and the male comes, gets his mouth around her, and just tears her out of my arms, right? My little dog, Pollyanna was her name, tears her out of my arms and runs back to the other side of the street with my dog in it. Now, the leash was around my wrist, that loop part, but it pulled with such force that where it pinned onto the collar, the little hoop on the collar, it just straightened that ring out and tore the leash off of the collar. So I just start screaming, right? I chase the dogs down, I start screaming, and I run up and I start kicking the dog. Now, they had thrown my little dog into the ground by the fence, and they both just started mauling my dog, tearing her up. And I just see blood everywhere. I'm screaming. The homeowner, the lady, comes out, starts yelling for the dogs. Nothing. It has no effect. So I'm kicking the dogs. It's all I know what to do. I'm kicking them as hard as I can. I'm 9. I'm kicking these dogs. They're bigger than I am. And the lady starts up her water hose and comes over running, spraying, yelling at her dogs. And they're still not moving until she gets there and physically pulls them off by the collar, spraying them with the water hose. Now, as soon as they do that, I go down and I pick up my little dog. And my dog turns, bites one thumb. I pull it out of her mouth. She turns and bites the other thumb. And then she realizes it's me and she stops biting. So my little dog's just fighting for her life. And, you know, she doesn't even know what's happening. I'm literally, her insides are hanging out. Like, I'm trying to hold her together. So I go in, the lady's like, go that way. So I go, like, I'm taking my dog, and they had a garage building on the back of their property. So once she gets the dogs put inside her house, she comes back there, and I'm just like, I'm crying, I'm shook, right? My dog, I'm covered in blood. And she's like, what do you want me to do? And I'm like, save my dog. Now, had I known now, my dog was so far gone, we should have put my dog down. But I'm like, save my dog. So she's like, we need to call your parents. She'd called her husband. Her husband got there like 2 minutes later. We were living in a small town. And he takes my dog and he goes, I'm headed to the vet. And takes my dog and goes. She stays. We call my parents. My parents come. They get me. I'm covered in blood. And we go down to the vet. And they're literally like, your dog, look, we're operating, we're going to try and save your dog, but she's literally lost a ton of blood. And so, you know, for me, it's like, I just want my dog saved. Now, I didn't realize the extent of the damage that had been done to my dog. She was operated on for 8.5 hours. She lost her one kidney, her uterus, her ovaries, half a rib, and she had over 350 stitches inside and outside. She looked like a patchwork quilt. They'd shaved her whole body from like her neck down, and it was just stitches every which way. She was tore to pieces. So it's one of those things that, you know, that was a traumatic thing for me. Now, my dog pulled through. They did say, like, hey, your dog, you know, she died on the table, apparently, several times. They said it was a terrier in her that kept her alive. It's a tough breed. And, you know, she wanted to live, obviously. Now, they said she'd never walk normal. She'd have a very limited life. And she went on to live for 16 years. She was only like 9 months old when this happened. She was a baby, right? And so we had her for a good long time. She went on to live a good life, but it was miserable for her and painful for her for months. It took a long time for her to heal. Now, I bring this story up because we lived in California at the time, and my dad was like, what do we do in this situation? These people obviously were taking care of the vet bills, but they're like, listen, we don't want to report this. These are show dogs. And so my dad's like, listen, these dogs, clearly your fence isn't tall enough. It was a 3-foot picket fence, and they were 4-foot tall dogs, right? So he's like, you need to kennel them or have a taller fence done, and you know, we won't report it, and it is what it is. So they end up building a chain link fence, and it was like an 8-foot chain link fence, but it was just like one area of the yard. They didn't fence the whole yard. So as time goes by, it's chain linked in, but then you end up seeing the dogs after a while in the yard again. And I can remember, like, I'm just never going over there. And so I didn't ever go back to that bike shop because I was afraid of seeing those dogs out. Well, it turns out the dogs had attacked other dogs before my dog. And we didn't realize that until after, and it was about a year later. I guess the dogs had jumped the fence. They were out in the yard again. They jumped the fence, and they were chasing a kid. A guy stopped his car to intervene, and they attacked the guy, put him in the hospital. Really, really hurt the guy. He spent like 10 days in the hospital. So they literally mauled this guy. Now, I can remember my dad saying he regretted having not pushed for those dogs to have been destroyed. And by California law, once they attacked that man, they were destroyed. The animals had to be put down, and that was the end of that. We didn't know the whole story. Had we known they had attacked other dogs, does that make you feel some kind of way? Now, I will tell you, I was 9 when that happened. It was traumatizing. I was scared of dogs, not little tiny dogs, but I was scared of big dogs for years. I mean, into my teens. And of course, when we moved to Hawaii, this guy had a nasty pit bull named Tita. And this thing would chase me up and down the road, and I was terrified of this dog. And it was a big deal. Now, I bring this up because the story that just happened 2 days ago, her little dog is her child. Her little dog got mauled by 3 large dogs at the dog park. They went underneath the fence into the small dog area, and they put a bunch of holes in the dog. There weren't any stitches, but you can see there's at least probably 10 or 12 punctures into this little dog. They shaved it, and it's got little holes. They cleaned them all up. But she was fighting these dogs off. She's a grown woman. She was fighting these dogs off. And, you know, in my mind, it's one of those things, like, this is a controversial topic because our pets are our children. Now, I'm not a dog guy. I've never been a dog guy since then. I am a cat guy. Marshmallow is like my pride and joy. I love that cat more than anything. If anything happened to that cat, I would be pushing to see some sort of... I mean, here's what I don't get, right? If dogs... I mean, a lot of you guys have big dogs, right? And you would never get your big dog to go attack a small dog. A small, helpless dog Why would a big dog go out of its way? I think some animals are just predisposed. I think maybe it's an instinct thing. Maybe they've got a bad attitude. But I know plenty of big dogs that would never, ever attack a smaller dog. They just never would. So then you have to go, well, is it a bad dog? Is it a thing? Is there such a thing as a mean animal or a bad animal? I don't know. But then your concern is, well, if they've attacked a little helpless dog, a pack of 3 large dogs, is this behavior that would be repeated? Would it happen again, potentially? And in my mind, if they've done it once, they can very well and could very easily do it again, right? That's in my mind. I mean, I think of the dogs, they're an animal. I think of them as a human. A human that could attack or kill somebody once, we now know they're capable, right? They're capable of doing it again. Could they change? Sure, they could. For an animal, it's even less mental and even more instinctual that if they've tasted blood, if they've done that once, that it could happen again. So then do you what? Do you push for more? I mean, I would say in this case, I don't know what any rules or regulations are, but I would say a report needs to be filed, right? Like some sort of a report needs to be documented that, hey, this happened, so that if on a totally separate plane, these dogs ever attacked another animal, there's already documentation of that. Not your documentation, because you'd probably never hear about it or find out about it. But is there like should there even be a 3 strikes you're out? Like if a dog has attacked an animal, caused damage, and then they attack another animal and cause damage, should you be compelled to put that dog down? And again, I know this is a touchy subject. We all have dogs, right? Or cats. I mean, I love animals like you love animals. But once they have damaged another animal, once they have attacked another animal, and I think as far as people go, it's without question. Any animal attacks a person, I think the animal should be put down. Now, I know that there's those examples. That lady just got her face bit off by her family dog. She startled the dog. It's extenuating circumstances. And I believe that stuff could be true. Do I think that animal should still be put down? Unfortunately, I do think that. I do think that because they are capable of killing somebody. And everybody's always like, hey, my dog would never do that. You know, we have, for example, my wife, always been a dog lover. Her parents had a Great Dane. They've had several big dogs. They love big dogs, right? My wife loves dogs, loves them. We have a mutual friend or a good friend of ours that our daughter grew up with. Our daughter go on play dates. They have a pit bull. I'm not saying it's a pit bull's fault. I'm just saying it happened to be a pit bull. My wife wasn't nervous about it at all. And then out of the blue, it turned and bit her hand. Hard. She had to pull it out of its mouth. Now, my wife, that startled her. That scared her. She now is nervous around dogs. She won't go back to that house where that dog is. We don't let our daughter go to that house where that dog is. Because that dog's now bit my wife. It's their family dog. They got a house full of kids. It would never do that, right? But it did do that. It did bite my wife. So I can't let my daughter go there when that dog's there, because all it takes is one more accident, right? One more accident, and it could be much, much worse than a bit hand, right? I mean, a child, my wife's 5'9". A child doesn't stand a chance against a grown pit bull. So this is the conversation. What can be done? I think at the very least, they have to report the dog. They should report it, police or otherwise, so there's a record, even when it just attacks another dog. But I'll tell you, having been through it, it is traumatic. And I almost would be a guy that would push to have the dog put down. Is it worth the risk? Because again, what's the slope from a dog that'll attack a much smaller dog out of the blue versus them attacking a person, a child? What's the chance? What are the odds? And again, if you're just joining me, the deal is somebody close to me, they had their little tiny dog at the dog park. I mean, we're talking like a 4-pound dog. They're in the small dog park side, and 3 large dogs on the large dog park side went under the fence, attacked her little tiny dog. She was fighting for her dog's life. And even then, the dogs don't come off until the owner comes. Like, she very well could have gotten bit. She didn't. But her dog's her baby. She's fighting for her dog's life. Her dog got bit up. She ended up getting the dog away. The owner ended up getting their 3 dogs off. They did pay the vet bill. The dog is going to be fine. It shook up. She shook up. And so, again, I was just sharing my experience when I was 9. My little dog got tore to bits. She lived, but at what cost? And it was traumatizing for me for years. And so it's one of those things. You know, the dogs, we didn't end up reporting or doing anything about those dogs that attacked my dog. They went on to attack a person, and they got put down at that point. Again, we didn't know they had attacked other dogs, but it had escalated from they attacked dogs to then attacking a person. And I think animals are unpredictable like that. I think any animal could do that. What's your thoughts? If a dog attacks, unprovoked, attacks and goes after another animal, would you have to look hard at putting that dog down? Would you put your dog down? Would the person whose dog got attacked, would they be in the right to ask for you to put your dog down? You know, again, I would put the blame on the owners. You should have control of your animals. Clearly, they're at a dog park. They thought the fences would hold. They didn't think that was an issue. So I'm sure none of this was intentional, right? But it happened nonetheless. So here we are. And this is just today's controversial topic. You know, it came up. It brought all those feelings back up. These people were close to me, very close to me. And they didn't want me to bring it up. So we've just left it at that. But again, it brought up my own story and situation. And my own feelings about it are, you know, if a larger dog will unprovoked go after a smaller animal, then they could very well, I mean, what happens if a kid ends up running away from them? What happens then? I mean, a pack mentality, I think they would naturally go after a kid. I don't think that's off limits. It just sucks. It sucks for anybody to have to go through. So we all love our pets. Take care of your pets, folks. Don't put them in compromising situations. If you've got a big dog, you know, and I'll say, I mean, my pal Fish has a couple of pits. They are the most slobbering big babies you ever wanted to meet. I never felt threatened whatsoever. Does that mean they're not capable? I think many aren't capable. You know, my in-laws had a big giant Great Dane. The cat would walk in the room and that Great Dane would tremble in fear of the cat, the tiny little cat. And she would smack that Great Dane on the nose. She didn't even care. So I think there are those dogs that are incapable of doing that kind of damage. But then you have other dogs that they'll go seek it, right? they get worked up, or whatever it may be, that instinct clicks and away they go, their problem. So if you got a big dog, even though you love them, don't give them an opportunity. If you can't control them or control the situation, then remove yourself from that situation. Don't put yourself in that situation. That's my only thought on that, because I'm of the camp, if something happened to my wife or anyone, if we were walking our old little dog and it was attacked, given my history, I would have pushed to have that dog put down. I would. That's just the past. With my own past, that's where I'm at. So thank you for watching. If you thought today was interesting, leave me a comment. Tell me your thoughts on this. This is one of those topics. There will be people on both sides of it, without a doubt. I just thought it'd be something interesting to talk about, get us thinking, and hopefully you can save your dog from a compromising situation, or yourself from being put in a compromising situation. In any case, I am about to where I'm getting for today. I'll see you guys next time. Pirate out. Arg.